Alright, welcome back to the SilmFilm Season 2, Episode 13, the finale. We're in Part 2. Thanks, Marie. I said it before I saw it, but just say it. Anyway, so yeah, we kind of started skipping a little bit ahead of ourselves here. We haven't, I mean, it seems obvious to me to make Feanor the protagonist of this episode. But is that really the direction that we need to be going in, do we think?
If you were to put it to me, I would kind of say that actually the protagonist of the episode is Melkor.
Mm-hmm.
And the antagonist is Ungoliant.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that would definitely lead up to a thieves' quarrel as the climax of the episode. Now, wouldn't it?
Why do I feel like we're going to wind up having to write two separate outlines?
We might.
But that's me trying to be clever. The problem I have with making Feanor the protagonist is that he's kind of inactive for most of the episode.
We did talk about that, yes.
And he doesn't. I mean, who would his antagonist be? Because he doesn't spend any time really with Melkor.
Well, he's fighting the death of the trees potentially.
Yeah, I guess.
Which adds meaning to his refusal. He was trying to save the trees, honestly, and then refused.
Yeah, because if you make it that he just refuses, it's a callous, I don't care about the rest of you, which, yeah, let's be real, he kind of doesn't. However, if he tries to save the trees first, then it's not just, I don't care about the rest of you at all.
Right.
It's, I don't care about the rest of you as much as the
enough to give this up.
And when I was listening to episode 12 and Corey went this direction, I was like, yes, this is how we make this believable. The aggrandizement of his name, the possibility of being basically having a hand in the making of the trees.
Yeah.
I think that would be appealing to Feanor.
Mm-hmm.
Like if anyone were to objectively step outside of it and look at it, it would be like, oh, you're a narcissist in the extreme, right? But for him, that's just kind of how he lives life. So,
right. But if we did that, then him choosing not to give up the Silmarils is not a fall.
Yeah, it still kind of is, right? Like,
well, no, because he's not going from higher to lower. He's moving laterally, right? He's moving from one bad motivation to another. I don't really care if he saves the trees only for his own.
No. I don't think it's only for his own, but I think that's how.
But if you illustrate that as his primary motivation, that's how it's going to read.
Yeah.
I think that it's not too difficult to imagine that someone who would make the Silmarils would place high value on the light of the trees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he values the trees for themselves.
Right. That's what I'm saying, to illustrate that he does care about the trees for what they are. That lends a lot more weight to his decision to not give up the Silmarils.
But being Feanor, it wouldn't just be a selfless, must save the trees. There would be a little bit of a, aren't I so great, I help save the trees, because it's Feanor.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that. But
again, primary motivation versus flavor.
Right.
I feel like his primary motivation, kind of, when he attempts to save the trees, has got to be the attempt to preserve the art.
Yeah. No, I think
because the art to him is the most important thing.
Yeah, I think that's
the art to him is more important than him. It's more important than his own life. Because what does he say when he says if you break the Silmarils, I will die. I will be the first the first of the Eldar to die in Arda.
He doesn't say that. He says the first to be slain.
The first to be slain. Okay.
Because he's saying if you force it on me, you'll
and of course he's not the first to die because Mom died. So yeah.
Right. So he would never say first to die because he's never going to forget about Muriel.
Right.
But he does say first slain.
Yeah.
And that's when Mando says not the first.
Not the first.
Right. But
which means
basically
we
saying
as an audience know.
He's basically saying if I give up the Silmarils, it will kill me.
But based on here's the only problem with that. It's impossible, based on the character that we have delivered, to not read that as kind of being a crybaby. So
that's why I'm saying we give him some positive moments, so that reads.
But it's still gonna read like he's being at least melodramatic, right? Nobody's gonna listen from those words coming out of Feanor's mouth and go, "Oh yeah, no, he will die for sure." If they
there is a question of whether or not you would take him seriously, and I agree that it sounds like hyperbole, but is it? And that question.
How do we convey that it is not? We
don't. But I think we should be able to put the question on the table in such a way that the audience goes, "Oh wait, would that really cost him his life to give that up?"
The only way we do that is to link his mother to it somehow, because that's the only other person who would have died in a slightly similar fashion.
Right, putting too much of herself into something.
Yeah. Who basically suffered trauma from her own personal investment in something, and then just couldn't deal.
Well, another thing to think about is if we can find a way for Feanor to be visible, like if he is working as hard as he possibly can to try to save the trees, then it becomes the question of if he could find it in himself to give the Silmarils up, wouldn't he have done that?
The fact that it's not on the table until someone else suggests it is telling. But this is also Feanor and the Silmarils. Was he ever going to give them up or offer them? He just decided to go to a party and not wear them so no one else could see them.
Right.
I mean, I'm
not saying that he ever was going to give them up.
No, but he just made a very petty, possessive decision about the Silmarils one episode ago.
So I know what you want to do with it, Nick, and I think it would be good. I just don't. There's no structural way to make it work. That's gonna. I mean, if you really wanted to sell it, it's gonna take a lot of screen time of back and forth and interior monologue, and we just don't really have time for it. I think we can make suggestions, and we can do it with a light touch, sort of, but it's not going to be as clear as day that this was a moment. The best that we can kind of do is vaguely parallel this redemptive opportunity that Feanor has right now with the way that Melkor has had lots of opportunities to be a decent person. In the season.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I have consistently wanted to forestall the moment of decision. Right. To separate that with time from when the choice is offered.
Right.
Because we have to have time for him to at least be thinking about it.
Right.
If we're gonna, but here's the thing. There's two things going on. If we decide,
there just isn't time. Like
well, there could be time. There could be time. It depends on what we're gonna do here. If the climax of the episode is the decision not to give up the Silmarils, I don't see a way that the Thieves' Quarrel makes it into the episode. Okay?
Yeah. I completely agree with that.
And if that's what happens, then we have the time but then we have to sell that Feanor might have considered giving up the Silmarils.
Mm-hmm.
We have to sell
I
that.
do agree to that as
Okay.
well.
On the flip side of that, you make Melkor the protagonist of the episode. The climax of the episode becomes the Thieves' Quarrel.
Yep.
Now we have to sell. We have to figure out a way to really work on how. Was Melkor always going to do this, or we have to explain this now? If we do that, we have to explain whether Melkor was always going to do this, whether Melkor was always going to. This was never going to work out, or if there was a point at which he turned away from redemption.
I still think that's a season 3 question.
Yeah.
But if he's the protagonist of the episode, we have to motivate him.
We have to
but he's in full-on revenge, smash everything mode throughout this whole episode.
I understand, but we still need to motivate him.
We need to pose the question. We don't need to elaborate on what.
Right. Yeah. We need to at least have something.
There's
people
space for that with his confrontation with Finwë and his confrontations with Ungoliant. Yeah, there's plenty of space to address that question if we're not going to get in there and really answer it yet, which I don't think we should.
But two things are going to happen if we do this.
Right.
If we do that. One is that the destruction of the trees themselves is going to take a back seat to the fall of Melkor.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're part and partial.
Yes, but it's going to be
you're right. The big deal is not the event that the trees have been destroyed. It's that Melkor has finally taken his irrevocable step towards
evil. Right. Yeah, he is now no longer Senator or Chancellor Palpatine. Now he is the Emperor.
Right. And your show's good when you make prequels references.
If you're gonna make that comparison, I think the character you chose is not a great one, because that is a character that it is very obvious that there has never been any attempt or chance at redemption for.
Yes.
So.
I disagree. I think that you could easily have watched the very first Star Wars prequel film and not have picked up on the fact that Senator Palpatine was a bad guy. Unless, of course, you knew that the Emperor's name was Emperor Palpatine. Yeah. So I'm not saying that Star Wars fans didn't know that, but
that was definitely a dead point.
But even me, being someone who knew that very well, was still going, wait, is this before he was bad?
Mm.
The very first time I saw it in theaters, I wasn't sure while I was watching it. In discussing it with people afterwards, I'm like, I'm pretty sure he was evil during the whole thing. But
I recognized the voice when he was Darth Sidious. That was the thing that made it obvious to me.
Okay, I guess I wasn't paying attention.
Ian
McDermott, Ian McDermott. Ian Holm is Bilbo.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Ians in this.
Very distinctive voice.
Yeah.
That is true. I'm sure I figured that out eventually, but I just remember sitting in the theater going, wait a minute. I think this guy is two-faced. Am I right?
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't to me 100% sure.
The real problem with that film, as far as the antagonist,
was not that.
He was.
Which problem do you want?
Yeah, exactly. He was more interested in sort of the two-facedness of the senator rather than getting at the senator's character really in any interesting way. It was just the sort of the senator versus the Dark Lord, But whatever.
Well, that's kind of the thing that I want to avoid.
We'll be here till doomsday. That if we start talking problems with the Phantom Menace.
So let's not do that.
Sorry.
But let's avoid the problems of the Phantom Menace in our
right. No, well, that's the thing.
Bring it up and then say, "Don't do that."
Yeah. The other thing, though, is that if you make Melkor and Melkor's fall the real meat of the episode, then what you're doing, in a way, is you're kind of weakening the fall of Feanor in a way. Because then instead of spending, because we can only spend the time on one of these, on the pathos of one of these two guys.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, the other one's always going to be there, but the focus needs to be on one or the other.
Right, because either way, we have a hard sell in front of us, and on top of that, we're also changing the specified choice of the climax.
We're either changing the climax of the episode or we're changing the content of the episode by cutting it off earlier than they asked for. But we have to change one of those things. So I agree. I think they won't notice if we change the climax of the episode because we'll make it play out exactly how they told us to. Corey, and they'll be like, that's what we asked for.
If nothing else, Corey will be too happy that we included everything that he asked. Like if the end of the episode is missing as far as he's concerned, that I think is going to draw more attention to the fact. Well, in part because of the format. Like if he sat there and did close reading of the filmed version of this, he might go, "Hey, wait a minute, this isn't the climax of the episode at all." But you know, he's not going to get an opportunity to do that. So
exactly. So I think we could easily get away with changing the climax and just saying, "Hey, we changed the climax on you, but don't worry, that scene is still in it just earlier."
Yeah. And here's my.
I think we might be more faithful to what they asked for if we cut the thieves' quarrel, which sure they're going to complain about, but why don't we just do that and then let them complain? And if we want to have to put it back in, we can put it back in.
And here's my argument.
Also, the other thing is, if we did cut it and move it to season 3, that's going to be a lot easier to explain if they notice that, because
they're going to
be a lot easier to explain. Look, it was either this or we had to make Melkor the protagonist of the episode and make the climax the thieves' quarrel, which we asked you. We specifically came and asked you for a call on that, and you gave us a call, and this was what we had to do as a result.
Right.
It's a lot. It's going to be a lot harder to sell if they say, "Hey, why are you focusing so much on Melkor when we really wanted an episode about Feanor and his fall?"
So here's my argument against the Feanor thing. Aside from the fact that we lose the really awesome 2 crowns shot at the end of the season, which
that was the other thing I was worried about.
A little too awesome to skip, in my opinion. But we just had basically half a season of the Feanor show.
Yes.
And so I think I think our understanding of who Feanor is and what I would be very comfortable if he was primarily just reactive, because we just spent half a season setting up his character, and now we need to throw something at him without tons and tons of explanation for him to kind of respond to, right? And our primary antagonist for the season has gotten sort of short shrift, except when it's been a part of the Feanor show. So making him the focus of this episode, especially when he is really the active party here, seems appropriate to me. As far as, I mean, he's the reason why season 3 kind of happens at all, right? Like he is definitely the one pushing things forward. And I think spending a little bit of not just like action time, face time, screen time with him, but actually setting up what next season is gonna, because he's gonna disappear again basically, because it's gonna be the elf show again, right? But I'm
not really
the foundation
thinking that's a bad thing.
Well, no,
I'm good with the elf show. I don't feel like we need to spend all the time with the bad guys.
No, we don't. But he's the active party, right? He is the underlying.
Oh, I want Melkor to have screen time in this episode. I don't get me wrong. I certainly want to see him.
I'm not just talking
doing
about
what he's doing.
I'm talking about specifically, like, this is the guy who is the reason for all of this, right? Without this guy, you don't have this story, basically. So to make him the focus of the finale and to give him as much focus in the first episode of season 3 as possible is the appropriate way to set up what everyone is going to be dealing with going forward. So that's my like actual reasonable argument for why it shouldn't be the Feanor show again. Now, does that mean we have to do it that way? No. But do I think that is the superior way to do it? Absolutely. Yeah. There you go.
Of course, I always think I'm right. If I didn't think I was right, I wouldn't think the things I think.
Well, like Corey, though, I as much, smack talk and bluster as I put out on this show, I'm like Corey. If you can put forth a decent argument, I'm willing to be convinced. But that's, yeah, like I said, that's my starting point. That's where I'm coming at it from, as far as, because if you don't put the focus on the guy doing the action, it's not good TV, right? Like,
yeah, no, I'm on board with that. I do think that we could give Feanor enough action for.
No, he's what his reactions are important, and it's not like he's. But again, I think the groundwork for him in this episode has been laid already. So what he needs to do in this episode is comparatively smaller than what Melkor needs to do. So,
well, there's another issue.
Okay,
and that is that part of what Melkor needs to do is to sack Formanos, kill Finwë, and steal all the Silmarils and everything else that Feanor has there.
Yep.
Which is great, except that we're almost definitely not putting that on screen. For the simple reason, I know, but for the simple reason, unless you want to do flashbacks, because
no, I am very comfortable with not showing the death of Finwë and all its gory.
The deal is that whole event, the sacking of Formanos, has to happen prior to Feanor give up the Silmarils.
Yep.
Chronologically.
Yep.
But we can't show him. We can't even show that Melkor has really attacked Formanos at that point in time. So we can't show that scene.
Well,
why can't you show that scene?
Well, hang on.
Because of timing. We can show it in flashback.
Here's the thing.
We can the lead-in scene to hey Feanor give up the Silmarils is, Finwë standing in the doorway. Like, I don't see how else that you can even get to Feanor.
Here's the thing. You can show the assault on Formanos. What you can't do is show or even hint or telegraph rather that Melkor has the Silmarils.
Well, that's what I meant.
As soon as
that's the secret part. And
Feanor
Finwë is already dead.
Completely irrelevant.
So here's the
no, but his death is relevant as far as the timing goes.
Right.
The whole
so
not
here's
the
how
first
it works.
Means Finwë's already dead.
If you show Melkor at the gates of Formanos and Finwë staring up at not just Melkor but also Ungoliant, who I think is actually not like on top of the. I think she waits outside. I don't think.
I thought she just came right over the wall.
Yeah, no, I don't see that at all. I think I think she's kind of in the fields laying webs to hide the fact that they're there. Because if she goes into Formanos, why does he have to give her anything at all?
True, right? She could have just grabbed what she wanted.
Anything. So he's like, I'm gonna be 5 minutes. You go ahead and make sure nobody's following us, and I'll be right back. So we could see Ungoliant because she's a monstrous, web of shadow with spider outlines, which I think is actually really good.
Wheelie mist.
So as little of the monster as possible. But she's not going into Formanos. You're not going to have a shot of Ungoliant like perched on the parapets of Formanos.
Okay.
That doesn't happen.
And Finwë is outmatched plenty as it is.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
No,
yes.
Well, I mean,
there's no question that Finwë loses to Melkor. I agree.
We're not going to show it, but we don't have to draw attention to the fact that Melkor is going to steal the Silmarils, because of course he's going to steal the Silmarils. If we don't draw attention to it, and then he comes up, like anyone who is not reduced to open weeping. If they think about it for half a second, they're going to know that. So
that's the problem.
Well, I don't think it's a problem necessarily.
Of course, it's a problem. You can't have people going, "Oh, he must have the Silmarils now," and then have dramatic tension in.
But
does Feanor give up the Silmarils or not? Because there's no tension there.
If you just cut away from, if our focus is on, oh crap, Finway's gonna die.
Yes.
Then I don't think that we have to worry too much about the fact that it's spoiled, right? So we don't have to show anything outside of the fact that Melkor is at the gates of Formenos, because everything kind of writes itself after that.
Right? I agree, but my point is that all we show is Melkor standing at the gate. We don't show him sacking Formenos. Which is one of his big action scenes in this episode. So we've just decided not to show Melkor doing the thing.
If we're gonna have the thieves quarrel in this episode, I don't think we really have a lot of time.
Yeah, we have plenty of action to do.
Yeah. If you desperately want to see
the thieves quarrel, then the only actions that Melkor takes is says, "Hey, I'm going to eat these trees. I've just stabbed them for you. Oh, let me smash the Valor's thrones because I'm really annoyed with them and I want to do something petty."
That's a whole.
Okay. The darkness moves to Formenos and I stand at the gate and Finway stands at the gate and that doesn't involve Finway.
So let me.
And then thieves quarrel. That's the whole story.
Yeah.
For Melkor.
That's a lot of stuff.
Well,
though. Like
we want him as the protagonist.
That's what I'm saying. If he is the protagonist and the thieves quarrel is in, I promise you that will be plenty of action. Like it is.
Oh, there's plenty of action. I just don't feel like there's any story.
The story. No, the story is. Well, okay. So now the question becomes the mechanics of how do we communicate the story of Melkor.
There's plenty of story that you can illustrate through action, and I feel like
here, what I would say to that is, if it's not acted well, it could potentially look goofy. But if it's delivered the way a lot of the goofy nonsense that's in the Lord of the Rings films is performed, then I think it'll be fine. Melkor just kind of needs to make some mythic pronouncements as he does stuff. And I don't think it's inappropriate for him to, especially after being kind of this Bowie scrapey sort of yes man. Or
go back to the guy that we saw in season 1, episode 2, talking directly into the camera, or episode 3 rather, talking directly into the camera.
If we get a return, because we've mostly avoided. He's been a very different character the whole season.
Yeah,
if we
get
a return to
monologuing,
who pronounces, the guy who announces his attacks before he makes them, right? I don't think that would be inappropriate. It would definitely be a huge change of tone for him for the season, and it would allow us to very directly communicate a lot of what is in his headspace without having to resort to dialogue with Ungoliant.
Who's the only person he's going to talk to or interact with this episode if we cut the interaction?
Well, I mean, we could maybe throw in a couple of lines of Finway talking to him, but I think I would prefer him just to be this big monolithic silent.
And if
I'd rather see that.
If you focus on Melkor, you're probably going to want a scene in Angband to kind of set up what's going on back there, or even have that scene in episode 12 to set that up.
Talking to the Balrogs and to Myron for a hot minute, 30 seconds or something, where he's excited to come back into his own.
No. What I mean is to set up what's going on back there, so when the Balrogs show up when Melkor yells, it's not weird. So there's that.
Okay,
there's a few things that are going to need to happen,
right?
If Melkor is the focus,
that will give us space to tell story. Is the end of that sentence?
There's been a lot of fear in this project, even that action scenes are devoid of story, and that's not necessarily the case. It happens a lot.
No. I certainly know a well done action scene versus filler.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Like, let's fight the cave troll for 10 minutes is filler.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gandalf versus the Balrog, not filler.
Yes.
Yes.
I get that. I was more concerned that there was nothing that we were going to see on screen happening or changing or significant other than a bunch of stuff gets wrecked.
Well, that to me,
because that's what Melkor is, just wrecking stuff in this episode. So, which is great, and it could be cool. It's just, what story are we telling other than finally he let himself out and wrecked everything?
Right.
There's no change.
Yeah, don't worry. We're good at this. I promise.
All right, we need to take a break. We're a few minutes overdue for a break, so let's do that. If you're watching us live, thank you. First thing, share this. Get more people watching. I want to see this number go up more. If you're watching
season 3 will be even better than season 2.
Take off your shirt, Nick. That'll do it.
No, I do not recommend that method of marketing.
Thanks, Marie.
No. I'm not taking mine off either. For the same reason, I don't recommend that method of marketing.
Anyway, so if you're watching this in the future, like and share the videos if you like and want to share them. Definitely subscribe and definitely comment down below. Let us know what we're doing right. Let us know what we're doing wrong. We want to know all of it. Check out the links in the comments on the right or in the description down below for MidFloop 4, June 1st through the 4th. Be there, be square. See you in a little bit.